The views and opinions expressed in this episode are those of the guest and do not necessarily reflect the views of Well-Being with CJ Horrell. These perspectives are respectfully held and are shared for information and reflective purposes only. They're not intended as a substitute for professional care, nor should they be used in place of advice from your clinician, therapist, or health provider who understands the specific details of your personal situation. As for my own contributions, what I share reflects the most truthful viewpoint I can offer at the time of this recording. As the Holy Spirit continues to reveal deeper understanding, I reserve the freedom to revise, expand, or even contradict previous perspectives because growth is part of the journey.
Welcome to Well-Being with CJ Horrell. Candid conversations about life, health, and faith that encourage us to pursue our best selves. Here's CJ.
In this episode, I sit down with my friend and brother, Dr. Emmanuel Tabi, a scholar, artist, and educator whose work explores Black identity, community, and well-being through creativity and culture. We have an open and honest conversation today about what it really means to pursue wholeness as a Black man living in Canada. Together, we talk about the pressure to always be strong, the hidden emotional costs of that expectation, and the quiet power of rest, joy, and belonging. We explore how faith, purpose, and creative expression can become sacred pathways to healing, and not just for us as individuals, but for the communities we serve and love. This isn't just a conversation about race or resilience. It's about being seen, being human, and being well. In today's episode, Black, Whole, and Well, Redefining Strength, Joy, and Belonging. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are tuning into the podcast today. I've got with me, as I mentioned at the top of my introduction, Dr. Emmanuel Tabi. Welcome to the Well-Being Podcast, sir. How are you doing?
Oh man, thank you for having me. I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right. I'm grateful to be here, and yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Man,
It's really cool.
the pleasure is all mine. Now, for those of us, or for those of our listeners rather, that don't know, okay, Dr. Emmanuel Tabi, what is this? What is this? Are you a healer? I know that's loaded, eh? That's loaded. I know that's loaded.
That's funny. I'll say I'm healing,
Yes.
and I share some of the experiences I have while I'm healing.
But you're an
Yeah,
educator, and tell
yeah,
me a little
yeah.
bit about that, your background. Just share with the listeners who don't know.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah, my PhD's in education from UFT, OISI, the School of Education. And my work with that cultural production and the emotional lives of Black folks in Canada, but
mhm,
through cultural production, right? So our cultural production, like art is part of cultural production, but it's not. Oftentimes when people hear cultural production, they just think about the art, but it's more so like a cultural expression that is understood by the people that are part of that culture. For example, with like Christmas, right? When in Canada, when you see a gingerbread house, we know we usually see them at Christmas. But if you're part of another culture,
mhm,
you might not understand why the gingerbread houses are there,
mhm,
right? So that's
mhm,
something we create that's culturally specific or understood within our culture, right? So again, art is an expression of that, of our
mhm,
cultural identities and our cultural realities, our histories, but it's not necessarily just reduced to like what we create our cultural expresses. So yeah.
mhm,
But my master's, yeah, I'm at in like developmental psychology as well. So I used to want to be a clinical psychologist or school psychologist, and um, over time and gaining experience in the field, I was like, some of the conversations that I more so wanted to have. Shout out to my former supervisor, Dr. Rob Simon. He taught me that academia, there's no such thing as academia, right? It's more
mhm,
so the conversations that you want to be a part of.
mhm,
And so um, the conversations that were happening within the field of education were some of the conversations I wanted to be a part of. And psychology is great, right? But the way those questions were being spoken about or answered were much different in education, and they were also way more fulfilling personally. Like other time, like psychology is
Mm-hmm.
not really looking at like Black feminist thought and darkened feminism and bell hooks
Mm-hmm.
and Audre Lorde and what I mean, Dr. Dillard and others. But education was having those conversations with these scholars, and those are the conversations I wanted to be a part of. So um, I moved on through education. So now I'm assistant professor of Black Studies and Education at McGill right now.
Mm-hmm. Now, you're a black man, for those who can't see, but there's some that probably could tell in your voice or your accent.
Yes, sir.
But
I love
why?
it.
I mean, since I've known you, everything that you talk about, you live, breathe, is all bathed in black culture and history. Why?
You know, that's a loaded, but like I know that I'm wonderful and brilliant and and part of that is, like the documentaries my mom would 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 put on for me, learning about Fannie Lou Hamer, learning about Malcolm X, learning about Oscar Peterson, um, and and realizing that there's this thing that was pushing against my sense of belonging as a black person. Always asked where we're from,
Mm-hmm.
as if blackness, what I mean, has not been present in Canada
Mm-hmm.
for generations upon generations. I know folks whose family's been here 10 generations from Nova Scotia, you know what I
Wow.
mean?
Yeah.
From
Yeah.
right from different parts of Ontario, from Western Canada, right? So yeah, Vancouver, the list goes on, right? And so um that was really important for me in knowing myself, right? Because we're always asked where we're from. As yeah, again, as if we don't belong here. But also when you go to school, you know what I mean, you're not represented or folks, there's just this assumption that you're not intelligent.
Hmm.
Like I've been doing obedience training with dogs since I was 7 years old. And I noticed something with other trainers. People would be like, "Oh man, you're a great trainer." But with my animals, whenever they're fantastic, people just go, "Oh, you're such a good dog," and just always kind of erase me, right? So there's always an
Mm-hmm.
erasure
Mm-hmm.
of my intelligence, and so um, I was raised at home very different, and my mom made home very special because she knew what I'd face outside of the home, so that's why it's important, but it's also important to other folks and seeing, you meet people for the first time and then you realize they have the same stories you have,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you're like, what is this thing that people I don't know? And the only common denominator is the color of our skin. And so, growing up in Canada, you often see how our histories are ignored, devalued, erased, or just unknown. And so, it's just my personal interest that I've been very lucky that I've been able to, what I mean, create a career around it. And there's so much more I'm learning, man. Like so much I'm learning, and I'm grateful for, Dr. Lance McCready, Dr. Ashley Freeman, and so many countless others. Like Ruben, there's so many people that I can name, and I'm grateful for, and have really shaped my understanding and led my reading, and also challenged me. What I mean, challenged me as a man. I mean, living in a patriarchal system,
Mm-hmm.
challenged me as somebody who grew up in a upper middle class family. Right, my class privileges. Right, so then also understanding, again, returning to Black feminist thought, and understanding the complexities of my identity, right? So, yes, I understand racial oppression as a Black man, but I also understand male privilege. I also
Hmm.
understand class privilege, and how do
Mm-hmm.
those realities and my experiences with these social structures influence my um, experience in the world,
That is
right?
powerful, man. That is powerful,
Mhm.
especially for me because, I wasn't born. I'm a Canadian citizen, but I
Mhm.
was born in Trinidad, and it's
Right.
kind of it's different when everybody around you is brown, black. You know,
Mm,
it's a
mm-hmm,
whole different dynamic. And then you come
mm-hmm.
here and you begin to really, you know, you begin to see things differently. You begin to realize how much you don't know, how much you don't understand. Sometimes you're being
Right.
discriminated against and you don't even realize. You know,
It's true
you
though.
don't even
Yes.
realize. Which is a
Mm-hmm,
whole other podcast. But
mm-hmm.
what you're saying is very powerful. That consciousness, your identity. Like who are you really? Have you ever really asked that question? Who are
Come
you?
on now. Right. Because that's what it means to be racialized. Well, everybody is racialized, but racialization is pretty much saying the phenotypes that you express uh are attached to very specific stereotypes where people through which people imagine you, right? You're categorized and you're told, okay, like think about Dr. Wad Ibrahim. He would say, man, um, when he's back home, he'd be seen as tall or a basketball player, somebody
Mm-hmm.
who likes reading. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? There are so many
Mm-hmm.
other adjectives, but in Canada, you're black, and this is what it means to be black.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, okay. And some of that is a lot of that is colonization. So both your experience in Trinidad and in Canada are deeply impacted by how both nation states have been colonized
Yeah.
and the purposes of those spaces to these colonial entities, right? What was the purpose of Trinidad to Spain? What was the purpose
Mm-hmm.
of Canada to the British and the French,
Mm-hmm.
right? What are the resources that were created, right? Like even like when I was in Puerto Rico with Dr. Ruben Gazzabide Fernandez, his dad taught us that Puerto Rico exists because of the revolution in Haiti, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the Europeans needed to get their resources somewhere else, so they created Puerto Rico,
Yeah.
right? Like
Wow.
it's wild, but it came from the revolution and us um, pushing back against these structures that were created only to harm us. These structures that devalued our humanity and didn't even see us as human,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because we we're only seen through our labor. And how does that play out now, right? Well, we're only seen as physically gifted, so we could play sports, but intellectually, we're never, you know what I mean, assumed to be a thing. Like nobody just looks at me and thinks, "Wow, that guy's a doctor,"
Mm-hmm.
right? Or
Yeah.
how I was
Yeah.
devalued, and many times in school, I had amazing teachers, but I had a few that were really problematic. And this is my potential, right? My potential is to be where I am. But if I went based on how folks just viewed me, right, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's a
That's a lot. You and I were talking, before in our pre-production discussions. I gotta have you
yes.
back, just for everybody who's listening. I'm gonna have him back, and and maybe those of you listening can send me some ideas as to what you want us to talk about or what you want to hear Dr. Tabi talk about. But my first official question, based on today's theme, when you think about well-being as a
Yes.
black man living in Canada, what
Yes.
comes to mind first?
Uh, what I'm writing about right now, I wrote a chapter that's gonna be coming out next week or next year. Thankful for Dr. Derek Brooms inviting me. But it's talking about being a black male in academia, and a key thing for me is Bell Hook's notion of self-recovery. Right? If y'all haven't read it, Sisters of the M is a great book.
Mm-hmm.
But self-recovery is what it means to be a black man for me right now. Like, what are those things that I naturally like that I was told you shouldn't do or what have you, or need to fit into a certain trope because of my masculinity or because of my blackness? Like meditating, man. Like that is self-recovery, being
Mm-hmm.
outside on the ground, right? And seeing how that's benefiting me more than rushing off to this congregations thing and doing this and that, and it's so busy, and then you got to work. And where's that rest? Where's that self recovery?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Where is that knowledge of ourselves? Right? And so as I'm getting older, how the Rastafarians are always like, you got to know yourself, and it's true. You sit down and know yourself in different situations, right? And like, okay, cool. All right. All right. This is not okay.
Mm-hmm.
This thing is hurting me. So I need to remove it because, you know, Proverbs encourages us to number our days, right? Right. In Ecclesiastes, I believe it talks about it's better to be at a funeral than a party,
Hmm.
right? For those very reasons. So if I'm going to number my days, then like even when my mom was dying, she kept on the last like couple few months, man, like she just kept on going back to when I was like 3 years old. And she and I would just spend time outside and she was like, those were the most wonderful moments of my life.
Mm-hmm.
She lived her like 65 years and could look back. And I was like, that was the time when she was herself, man. She knew herself. I was like, if she knew that she'd be dead at 65, I think she would have spent a lot less time with the folly of the stuff, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? With
Mm-hmm.
uh right. And she did. The things I heard this church lady say towards the end of her life, I was shocked.
So,
Right.
go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. But it was yeah, mostly like it's like again, observe folks' fruits and if it's not good, just walk away. Life is short.
So when you talk about self recovery,
Yes, sir.
how has your personal journey shaped how you take care of your emotional and spiritual health?
Yeah, it's paramount, but it doesn't mean going to church.
Okay.
The two can be separated. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I could sit down if I'm not there every Sunday. Maybe I go once a month or what have you,
Mm-hmm.
or once a year. But as long as I'm centering the essence of the thing, I'm sitting down in nature. I'm I'm spending time
Mm-hmm. Relationship
healing
over
and
religion.
breathing. Yeah, man. Yeah, connection and observing what my fruit is.
Mm. Hmm.
Observing my fruit. That's what it means to know for my right now for me to know myself, eating from my garden.
Right.
And it's like, is that fruit good? Anybody around me, it's going to be, you know what I mean? When you're around somebody, you're taking part in their fruit.
That's a
To be
pop.
around, we are, if we see ourselves as gardens,
Hmm. Yeah.
right? And every time we're in each other's presence, I know you got good fruit, man. Been in your presence, you know what I mean? We spend time together. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
yo, man, that mango in your garden sweetly, man. Right? But like, it's like, that so but then do we know what our own mango tastes like? And if that mango's sour, then you're like, oh man, I gotta make some changes to the soil, maybe. You know what I mean? Maybe they need some more water, maybe what have you. I need to find out what I need to do to make this mango not sour. Or maybe it just needs to be sun ripe. Maybe I'm trying to pick my mangoes too soon, right? But if you're not sitting down and knowing yourself or being aware or really taking in what people are saying about you, like my wife, man, that Kenyan woman, she is a mirror, right? So what she reflects
Mm-hmm.
back to you is a good, honest, kind person who dearly loves me. So I know if she's telling me something about myself, she's not doing it to control me or what have you, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've been in other relationships, so it's like this is different.
Yeah.
And I know I can trust it. And I'm like, I gotta make that change.
Wow.
Because that's somebody that knows my fruit.
Yeah. She's asking, hey, you taste this? You taste this? You satisfied with how this tasted? You got to put something in that soil because this mango,
You
I
gotta
don't
do
know.
something. I don't know about you need some potassium in there, you need something. You know what I mean? You need something. You need something. But it's just that understanding of that, cause you know, like other Rasta man talks about other Rasta people. You know what I mean? Don't want to exclude Rasta women at all. Let's center them. But it's like I and I. We are in everything. When you think about it, like we are everything. Every living thing, I believe, is made of carbon or has carbon in it,
Hmm.
right? And so if we breathe out carbon, we breathe in oxygen, breathe out carbon dioxide, right? Or what
Hmm.
are we breathing out? Are we breathing out everything? Are we releasing everything? Right? Like it's we're connected to everything. So therefore, when I make a decision, it's affecting my children, my wife. I remember two folks I really looked up to, Dwayne and Lorraine. Shout out to Dwayne and Lorraine. But I remember with their kids, they had a little thing where they're like, if one of them's gonna go get a haircut, they're like, you go tell your sibling,
Mm-hmm.
because just to have them understand that what I do is going to affect you.
Mm-hmm.
It's not actually like you're asking your sibling permission to get a
Yeah.
haircut,
Yeah.
but it's more like I want you to be aware that the decisions you make affect your family,
Yeah.
right? Affect those around you. And so that's part of it. And so that awareness, that sitting down and being quiet and it's important for me. It's very important for me. And I don't know if it's I'm getting older, whatever, but it's like, man, I'm doing like I'm seeing the fruit of it. I'm seeing how my wife relates to me, how my children relate to me, and it's like, well, boy, there's good fruit, and by my fruit I'll be known.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm making that space and stuff like that, and also being aware of decisions I've made in the past and stuff, or decisions people have made around me in the past, and how that impacted my life,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes it shows you, what I want to be, and it shows you what I don't want to be. Like, one time I talked to you about being a dad, when Jazz was pregnant with Zion, and you were like, man, you know what I mean? Like understanding the influence that you're going to be fighting for your kids, like fighting over what is influencing your kids.
Mm-hmm.
And man, 7 years later, I'm still sitting down with that. But I'm seeing it manifest. You know what I mean? I'm like, that's why my mom didn't let me watch that TV show. Because now
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
42. I was sitting down like, oh, let me put this on for my kids. I got Disney Plus. I want to. Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah. I can't have that influence in their mind.
Wait a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Wait a minute. Why all these Disney movies, the parent dying? Right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so stuff like that. Yeah.
Well, as you talk, so before you got here, before you got to this
Yes,
place,
sir.
have there been moments where you felt like you had to choose between surviving and thriving? And what did that teach you?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. You know where I'm going with this, but absolutely. Right. Like, I give thanks for the people I've met in church. I give thanks for the experiences I had. Like, playing in church um, really expanded my musicianship, but also the people you get to be in relationship with. When you're in a band with somebody, you know what I mean? Like, you got practices and stuff, their work schedule a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean, what's going on in their life personally. So those kind of structures of social things, the way you're able to give love and receive love is super special. But there's certain parts of church that I've had to move away from in order to fully thrive,
Mm-hmm.
and to participate in healing practices that I see the fruit are beneficial to myself and my family. Like, yeah, it's and then there's that guilt part too, right? That they try and put on you. I'm like, man, like they almost make you feel like if you walk away from this, like your life's gonna fall apart. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, feels like it got better. So then why did you lie to me? Right? So it's that part. But I think that that's been really important for me, and but also understanding how important church is for certain people socially. You know what I mean? How grounding it is. I don't want to. I'm just talking about my personal experience, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Everyone's experience is going to be different, and I just want folks to be well. And so, if experiencing life through that participating in organized religion really blesses you and brings out good fruit, right? Then keep doing it, right?
Yeah.
Keep doing that thing. Yeah,
And I guess what you're saying too is that the common denominator in any space is people. Is
that's it.
people. So
That's
it
it.
may not be
Yeah,
a faith space for you, but there may be something you
right.
may need to be moving away from in order to thrive
Hmm.
and not just
Yeah, it
survive.
it really is people, right? Because I talk to my Muslim friends about what happens, right? In their faith circles, and like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
same thing here. You know what I mean? Just when I was going through church stuff and then seek friend, you realize it's just people. You know what I mean? Jewish friends are like, yeah, it's like that at our synagogue, right? It's just people in power,
Hmm.
right? It's an interesting mixture, and even and so it's humbling for me because I understand that these people are human beings and I'm a human being. And so, what would happen if I was made to feel how they feel when they have in positions of power over other people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Whoa.
So, for
Yeah.
me to
Yeah.
think that I would be different in their position changes the way I might see them. It offers a certain grace, right? Because they're a human being, I'm a human being. The difference is I'm not in their position, right? And life will teach you, man. Like if you know what I mean? Just be put in certain positions and you might shock yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, I didn't know I'd respond like that, but that's what it means to know yourself, right? A lot of people get into things to better other people's lives, they're on a mission, what have you,
Mm-hmm.
right? But we just, and even for myself, right? Constantly, what is my fruit, man? And really working to tend to my garden, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what self-care is. That's what well-being is, tending to my garden, right? Because if I don't tend to it, what's going to be the fruit, right?
So
What's uh-huh.
no, no, you're saying that, and I'm looking at my notes on this other question because I think it really ties in. So then, how do you personally navigate the expectations placed on a black man? You know, to always be strong or to always be stoic, to always be put together. How do you personally navigate the expectations that are sometimes placed on black men?
Mhm. That's different for me, because of privilege, in the sense that there have been ways that have been able to satisfy those demands and stereotypes and quote unquote be okay, right? But it affects all of us, and it affects, even now I have two sons. If, right? It was what was really important to me. And starting in undergrad for me is taking feminism classes
Mm-hmm.
and seeing how I can't just be like, that was the first place. I was like, I was really confronted. I was 18, 19. I was confronted with the reality that it's not good enough just to be a good person, but we have to use our privileges, the privileges that we do have, to disrupt oppressive systems, right? So my responsibility as a man, because when I'm teaching about, like, trigger warning, but when I'm teaching about things such as rape culture, I find students respond to me different than they would respond to a queer colleague or gay
Mm-hmm.
colleague or a colleague who's a woman, right? Talking about rape culture.
Could you rewind? What is rape culture? What is that?
Yeah. So like that understanding, it's pretty expansive, but part of it is the understanding and the blaming of a woman for her assault, but also a patriarchal system that does not, it traces from a patriarchal system that does not value the well-being of women in the same way men's well-being is held up.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So for example, a woman, if she's sexually assaulted, she'll be asked, well, what were you wearing?
Hmm.
As
Mm-hmm.
if
Yeah.
what she is wearing
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
the reason why she was harmed, as opposed to the man that harmed her,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or even the way men are prosecuted for certain assaults, or, you know what I mean? Dare I bring church back into it? You know what I mean? There was the sexual assault at Hillsong's church, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you saw the pastor get up on the pulpit and say, this was not a bad man. It's like an isolated incident. This is a family man.
Mm-hmm.
Nah, man, this is somebody who openly sexual assaulted somebody,
Yeah.
period.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so let's center first the victim. Let's center what that victim is going through, right? But patriarchy upholds and establishes the lie that you know what I mean, that privileges men. Um, and so rape culture kind of comes from that patriarchal structure. And so it's always, again, putting the onus on women, or saying women can't work, right? Creating stereotypes that play out in real time, like
Mm-hmm.
the wage gap women have to men, and again, in spaces where I've taught about this, particularly the biggest resistance is when I've taught in like Christian spaces,
Mm-hmm.
which is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And also in these spaces, this is often where I found more women defend patriarchy,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which is an interesting thing, right? So, um, yeah, understanding my position as a man, but also my privileges. And Dr. Andrew Allen, during my postdoc, he taught me, he's like, yo, our male privilege, we didn't ask for it, we didn't work for it, right? We didn't earn it,
Mm-hmm.
but because of these social structures, we have it, right? And so I built on top of what Dr. Andrew Allen taught me, and I was like, so then what are we going to do with it?
So how do we define strength, power as a man? For men listening, what does
Mhm.
strength and power really look like?
Okay, so power, like social power, like that's the assumption that, you know what I mean, we're leaders just because we're men, right? And what that does is it doesn't allow us to be like, yo, that doesn't align with my natural personality. I'm not going to
Mm-hmm.
spend my life striving to be a thing I'm not. um Now there might be places that you should be encouraged through, sure, right? Like, and it's less, for me anyway, I move away less from being a man and not being a man, and more so looking at being an adult.
Hmm. Okay, you gotta unpack that one.
Right?
Unpack
Like,
that
as an
one.
adult, I have to be mature enough to make these decisions, not because I'm a
Yes.
man, but because I'm an
Yes.
adult. Because I'm an adult, I made the decision to have children. I have certain responsibilities. Therefore, I'm going to make certain decisions about myself
Mm-hmm.
that might take away from my leisure time and
Mm-hmm.
things like this. But this is the world that I decided to create. And so I have to be attentive to it. I have to take care of that garden.
Mm-hmm.
I have
Mm-hmm.
to tend to the garden, but I know how to tend to a garden because I've learned how to tend to my garden.
Right.
So what if the tending of the garden is we change that for love? So for me to love my children, love my wife, I have to know how to love myself.
Myself, yeah.
I'm not going to eat that thing at this time of night because I love myself.
Hmm. Hmm.
Because at this age, that slice of pizza at 3 o'clock in the morning is not good for me.
Real talk. Real talk.
You know what I'm saying? But I'm
Yeah.
making that decision because I also love my family. And I want to make sure I'm in the best position. Man, Zion wakes up between 5:30 and 6:30 every day.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the differences in how I prepare my life and live my life means that my son is not getting yelled at every single morning at that time.
Mm-hmm.
That changes his experience. Now, that in itself is a privilege because I work a job where many days I could work from home.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm saying that from a point of privilege, because if a man is waking up to go work at a coal mine or
Mm-hmm.
is working nights,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? And your kids you just came home at 3 o'clock or whatever, 4 o'clock in the morning, you just got to sleep and your kids wake
Mm-hmm.
up at 5:30.
Yeah. Yeah.
Am I gonna look at you and you yelled at your kid? I'm not gonna look at you and judge you because your positionality is different than mine.
Mm-hmm.
I get to drop my kids to school most days because my job is, you know what I mean, allows me, and I'm grateful so grateful for it. You know what I mean? And be like, okay, cool. Have my classes maybe start at 11:30 or later. Now, sometimes I'll have an early morning class once in a while, but for a semester, I'm there early, but I could pick up my kids. You know what I mean? Like there are different things that my job allows me to do that allows me to be the parent I want to be. And understanding that so many people in the world don't have that privilege,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so also what is strength, what is power to me? Doing the hard thing. As men, we've been socialized, right? That we're the decision makers. But what that does sometimes is it puts us in a position where we don't apologize.
Mm-hmm.
But
Or we don't
before
seek
I could
advice.
apologize, or we don't seek advice, or
Mm-hmm.
we don't take it, right? When our wife is giving
Mm-hmm.
us sound advice,
Mm-hmm.
We're like, oh, you're being noisy. Oh, you're too much. Oh, you're because it's literally because of how we're socialized. We're responding to that socialization by pretty much saying, hey, you're chipping away at my armor,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? And when she says that thing, we imagine our armor to be, you know what I mean, made of metal or something great. And you realize it's
Yeah.
paper,
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
right? And then you get mad at her. So a man might get mad at her because you shone a light on my armor in a way that made me realize it's paper when I spend so much time trying to make it be metal, you know? And so it's this circular thing that we try to satisfy. And like, why don't we just be adults,
Hmm.
right? Because also like not everybody falls into these strict binaries on what's supposed to be a man and what's supposed to be a woman, and how we're socialized and stuff like that. And so I think when we tend to our garden, when we love ourselves, right? Like it's like even like if you want to, you know what I mean, there might be some Christian listeners here, but like you know, you satisfy the love God with all your heart, mind, body, and soul, and love your neighbor as yourself, right?
Hmm.
But we forget that the presupposition that Jesus is giving is that we love ourselves,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? We miss that part. Okay, cool. I love God, and that's you know the way it was taught to me. I love God. Cool. Good. I'm loving God. Love my neighbor more than myself. Cool. But then I don't spend time with myself.
Hmm. Yeah. And we have, yeah, 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 yeah. I was just thinking about the fact that, and even as believers, those of us that say we're Christians, we have no excuse because then he doubles back and he says, now love the way I have loved you.
Mercy.
So he comes back and he says, okay, yeah, I said before, love your neighbor as yourself. But now that
Mm.
I have walked and demonstrated, now go love the way I have loved you. We're going to be back. We're going to be back. So my question for the listeners now, especially the men, based on what you said, how are you tending your garden? How are you
Mm.
tending your garden? We're going to come back right after this. Every life tells a story, but too often those stories are lost with time. The laughter, the lessons, the wisdom gone before the next generation can hear them. With Timeless Ties, we help you capture those priceless memories and preserve them forever. Through guided conversations, we turn your loved one's voice, stories, and life journey into a lasting keepsake. Whether it's a beautifully printed photo book, a heartfelt audio recording, or a documentary-styled video, this isn't just about saving stories, it's about preserving love, building connection, and passing down a legacy that time can never erase. Book your free consultation today and begin your family's journey with Timeless Ties, because memories fade, but legacies last. Timeless Ties, a gift of memory, love, and legacy. So I think you kind of touched on this a bit, but I want to ask, there's a quiet revolution in redefining Black well-being, not through struggle, but through joy.
And that
What
comes from
does
black feminists,
what does
right?
joy
Like
look
that's
like? What does joy look like for you now? For you now, what does joy look like?
yeah. Joy looks like that exploration, man. But also sharing that exploration with like my wife, my kids, my friends, um, but more so myself, right? And like, wow, like that's why, like be like a child.
Hmm.
Because as a child, that's what you do. You just, for me, anyways, I had the privilege of having a backyard. I just sit down and sit in the sun and just think or watch the clouds. And yeah, those are my earliest experience of meditation, right? In our
Hmm.
house in Milton,
Hmm.
right? Just being in the backyard. Or I always had dogs, so you have to go walk your dog, and you go to the forest. You're just quiet and still, and now people are paying big money to do the same things, right? That you naturally
Hmm.
did as a child. But again, it's the opportunity that I had. I was able to grow up in quieter communities, right? And I'm not saying if you live in a louder community or a busier community, you can't meditate, and there is no meditation. That's not true at all. but I'll say that the places that I grew up aligned with the way I connect with the world, which is through nature, and allowed me to deepen those experiences.
Hmm. Because I was going to ask you,
Yeah.
how do you personally make space for rest and delight in your daily rhythm? That's what I was going to ask you, but I think you've kind of touched on that. If you want to say some
Okay.
more, by all means do. And also, you said meditation more than once. You said it earlier
Yeah.
on. Well, what is meditation, man? Break that down, because some
Yeah.
people, we get these ideas in our minds. We got to be in some mountain somewhere, and we got to, what is meditation really?
Um, being still at times, for me, like being aware of your breath, you know
Hmm.
what I mean? Like
Hmm.
creation came from the breath, right?
Hmm.
Like, and being conscious of it. Because if you think about it, like, let's say I do like have 3 meditation sessions, 20 minutes each throughout the day. And what, like, I have one in the morning, let's say, and then one around lunchtime.
Hmm.
But sometimes when I'm really busy, I realize I have not been aware of my breath since that 20 minutes I spent a few hours ago. But I've
Hmm.
been breathing the whole time.
Hmm.
But just that awareness of that breath centers me and brings me into the present. And there's a sense of peace, right? Like, look, Jesus went off on his own all the time, right? He's dealing with people, right? Right. We're complex. And so I think that's important, right? To be aware of my breath. But it helps because even if I'm in a meeting and if it's a bit stressful, I'm just like, where's my breath at? I could take 10 seconds
Hmm.
in that place,
Hmm.
find it again, center myself, and
Yeah.
be aware. And you know what really is cool for me personally? I often give thanks in that place. I'm like, wow, how lucky I am to be able to breathe
Hmm.
on my own. You know what I mean? Without a machine, and then
Wow.
you start being grateful for the little things that you have because I'm realizing there are times in my life I'd love to go back to. I'd love to go back to high school or undergrad or, where you're just out there riding bikes with your friends.
Hmm.
But there are things then that I was hoping for, and there are things I was grateful for at that time.
Yeah.
And they're now at 42, there are things I'm hoping for, and there are things I'm grateful for. And I'm realizing at my vantage point, you know what I mean? It's like, okay, cool. Like that's what life is. I'm always going to be in a position, you know what I mean? I was talking to, an older, someone who's older than me, and he has a beautiful, successful life. And we're talking on the phone, and he's like, he's going through a thing. But it's like, wow, it really clicked for me. It was like, so you're in a position where you're hoping for something still and stuff you're grateful for. I was like, how are you? He's like, you know what? It's a bit of a time right now, but I realize I'm grateful that didn't wake up in a war torn place right now.
Hmm.
I woke up with running water. There are places in Canada, reservations for indigenous folks that don't have running water or clean water. Right? We don't
Yeah.
have to think about somewhere else. We don't have to go far. Right here in this nation state, right? So
Hmm.
it's uh it's a thing, man. It's a thing. Being grateful for a breath, being grateful to be alive, in whatever condition. I shouldn't say that, right? Because people are in some really tough conditions. But for myself, the kid, like grateful that I could be here in this position to support my family.
Yeah.
I'm just super aware of especially in this economy, how many more people are
Yeah.
going to be struggling,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? The food banks are hitting numbers weekly, like by Thursday that before the pandemic, they'd hit by the end of the month.
Hmm.
So you have more and more people making the decision between food and paying their mortgage or food and paying their rent. And
Yeah.
this I see a lot more Ferraris and Lamborghinis on the road than I did as a child. And as
Hmm.
a child, I would have noticed them more, right? But what
Hmm.
that tells me is there's more people that are able to afford these luxury vehicles, and also understanding there are more people living in poverty,
Hmm.
right? Or unable to be homeowners,
Yeah.
unable to pay certain bills, right? And you did everything right. You went to school, you got the right job. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
You did all the things you're told you need to do to be successful. Yet here we are. Here we are.
Mm-hmm.
right? GTA, a bungalow, right? A semi-detached could be 1.4 million,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
right? What position is that putting folks in?
Mm-hmm.
So I give thanks for my breath and the things that I have with me that, if I were to lose some of those things, could I be grateful still?
Mm-hmm.
And then who am I?
Yeah. I have a
What am I?
I had a
Yeah.
friend. He was a guest on the show, Dylan, and he was talking about meditation, and
Mm,
he said something was so simple but so powerful. He talked about times that he would just stand in the shower and that
mm-hmm.
water is just flowing, and as it
Mm-hmm.
flows, he is praying. Just thinking about all
Mm,
the things it's washing away emotionally,
mm-hmm.
mentally,
Mm-hmm.
spiritually, physically. And sometimes we got to be still enough, I think, based on what you're saying, to just be grateful for how much power we have
Yeah.
to let
Yes.
go of things that really don't have the kind of control that we think they have over us. I'm
Yeah.
learning to do that more.
Hey. Hey, I love that. I
Yeah,
love that. For your garden, for you,
yeah, yeah.
for you.
Tending,
That little boy inside of you still lives.
yeah, tending my garden. I'm taking that one, man. I'm taking that one this week. All week I'm gonna be CJ. How are you tending your garden this week?
Yeah, man.
So, what
Yeah,
role
yeah.
then does creativity, because you're a creative man, you're a really creative guy, what role does
Oh man.
creativity, music, writing, expression play in your sense of wholeness? You still playing keyboards, by the way? Because it's keys, right? You play?
I play keys, guitar, and percussion.
Right. Okay.
And I sing and I was a spoken word poet.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, yeah, for a while. So I think the freedom to be the things that naturally come to me, the
Mm-hmm.
freedom to be a child,
Mm-hmm. Unpack that one,
right?
man. Unpack that one for us men. What are you
Well,
talking about,
you
man?
know, as
Freedom to
you
be a child.
as you get older, you're told who you are, who you can't be, who you should be,
Yeah.
based on our masculinity, based on our race,
Mm-hmm.
right? Based on maybe the family you're born into, based on religion.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, man, what did naturally make me happy? Or I'm grateful for the privileges to have been exposed to so many things. So at a young age, I'm like, I know I like that, and I know I don't like this. So I'm gonna invest more time doing this,
Mm-hmm.
right? Creativity for me means my kids, for the most part, don't watch TV for most of the week. Like Friday when they come home from school, Saturday, Sunday, fine. But what that forces me into, because I see now as a parent, what a great tool that at times, you had a hard day or whatever, you just want to put on the TV for the kids and just take a 20 minutes, just a lie down.
Mm-hmm.
But it's forcing me to like, okay, cool. Let's pick up this abacus. Let's do just maybe 5 minutes of math.
Mm-hmm.
Or let's Jazz bought them these building blocks. It's just but sit down and put these building blocks together. But again, even those things, like I'm aware of my privileges. One, I'm not traumatized by math. Many black men, based on our educational experiences, are
Mm-hmm.
traumatized by education. So
Yeah.
therefore, when it comes to educating our kids, it's not a fun thing. It's not coming from a fun place.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
coming from a place of trauma. That's one. Two, the access income to buy blocks for my kids so that we could put them together and just have those moments on good days, on bad days. You can count on, let's do a little bit of math, let's build some blocks. And they're at an age where that's cool. At 15 and 17, I have to, I might have to find something else, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
um, that's creativity for me too, to imagine it dips into self-determination, the ability to make very specific decisions about yourself. And for so long, Black folks have not been able to take part in self-determination in the same ways other folks have. Like so long weren't allowed to get mortgages, or you know what I mean, or
Mm-hmm.
what have you, or we never got that promotion that we earned because of how we're imagined, right? I remember taking Dr. Arlo Kemp's class, and he's was explaining to somebody about stereotypes. He's like, the difference between, like, as a white man, my stereotype is that I can't dance. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to get the job.
Mm-hmm.
But if I was a black man, the stereotypes about a black man might mean I don't get the job.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
how many of our lives have been impacted through those stereotypes that are rooted in white supremacy and colonialism?
Mm-hmm.
And then how do we grieve those things? What is it like to work for something you don't get it
Mm-hmm.
simply because of the body you're born into?
Mm-hmm.
And then let's celebrate the ways that we still find joy in this thing, in a life where it's different than other folks because of the color of our skin. But also let's grieve those moments. As your friend died on, you said, was talking about, letting the water
Mm-hmm.
wash it away,
Mm-hmm.
right? Wash it away. And and so yeah, that creativity, making space for it. I as a father right now, I don't have the space to do music the way I did before, but I'm grateful for the foundation because I could return to it. But I still pull out, you know what I mean? Like my congas, my djembes, they're in the living room. So the boys can pull it out all the time. My guitar's there. They strum a little bit and they have an introduction to music, but I'm not forcing it because I want them to still play. I remember like classical music, I appreciate the skill I got from it. Um, I did classical music from like 7 to 18, so 11 years. And I was so grateful, man. So grateful for the discipline it's taught me, the transferable skills it's taught me. But the one thing is, in some ways, it killed my childlike creativity. And for, I remember 3 years after I was done doing like Royal Conservative music stuff, I took a couple of years away from the piano. And that's when I fell in love with it. Because it wasn't for a recital, it wasn't for a competition, it wasn't for an exam. It was a way that I could just express. Particularly at the time, my dear friend Elise lost her battle with depression, and
Hmm.
and so when I was 21, I returned to the piano. So I didn't play from like 19 to about 21.
Mm-hmm.
21, I returned, but in a space where I needed just to flow and be fluid. You know what I mean? And be in a space where it was quiet. And so creativity is a space where those creative expressions where they can enhance our lives or bring color to our lives in the face of racism, in the face of patriarchy, in the face of homophobia, in the face of these social oppressions that um, impact us deeply,
Mm-hmm.
deeply, 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 right? Like Audre Lorde wrote this for women in Sister Outsider, but Audre Lorde says, poetry is not a luxury. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
right? She said this for women, right? She wrote this for women, like for us women, poetry is not a luxury, but there is a wisdom in there that I received as well, even though I'm not a woman,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's not a luxury. We're not doing this. It's like, ooh, we need to, right? How many of the young men in my work, like they're like, when I looked at how black men are responding to poetry, they're like, I need to write. It's either I write or I go to jail because I lose my temper,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because when you are going on the bus, one brother um told me this story about him, what happened to him. He was going on the bus. He had, I think it was like, let's say it's like $100, right? What he was gonna do, he's new to Canada. He was gonna go buy a shop vac and then go around and like go to construction sites and just offer, hey, for half the price you pay somebody else, I will clean your your area,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, okay, great. So he's going to pick it up, and he realizes that he didn't have many coins. He just had like a a bill or whatever. He's like, hey, um, I just real sorry. He's about to hop on the bus. He's like, sorry, I don't have the cash or my card, but I can pull together some coins here and some dimes and stuff and get you them. And the bus driver's like, yeah, don't worry about it. Just get on the bus. He's like, okay, cool, thank you, right? And then the next stop, the police were waiting for him. The bus driver called on
Mm-hmm.
him,
Mm-hmm.
called the cops on him, and said this guy refused to pay,
Mm-hmm.
and then he got a fine, and that fine was all the money he had in his pocket. to go get that shop vac.
Wow.
So then you share this story with white men, and they're like, I've never experienced anything like this. Right? But that's what white privilege is. The ability to go through your life and not experience that. Not saying you're not experiencing hardship now. Because when we talk about white supremacy, we're not necessarily talking about like pointing at white individual people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You're talking about the systems that privilege lighter skin
Mm-hmm.
over dark skin, and not at, and certain stereotypes are not attached to white men in the way that it is to us, and allowing them to experience life differently than we do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's not saying a white man's life, he's not going to go through hardships or whatever because he's white. No, but there's certain oppressive realities that he will not experience. The same way patriarchy, right? It's not pointing at an individual man. And we're talking about a system that privileges us.
Mm-hmm.
So just like with patriarchy as men, like we didn't earn it, right? But it's ours, right? But what are we going to do with our power?
Yeah.
What are we going to do with our privileges? Those privileges. I work, you know what I mean? The activism or anti-oppressive work that I do, tons of white people doing the work too. They have white privilege, but how are they using their white privilege?
Mm-hmm.
Are they going into spaces where folks think, oh my gosh, it's safe. Okay, let me say what I really got to say. And they're like, actually, that's still not okay. Right. Or for us men, you know, what I mean, those locker room situations, or you go and grab some food with a bunch of guys and they're saying some stuff that's super homophobic or
Mm-hmm.
super misogynistic. And you know what I mean? In those spaces, use your privileges. You're like, hey man, like maybe not in my space, dude. That's not cool. Right. And so that is also power. You asked me earlier what power is.
Mm-hmm.
It's strength.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Power and strength based on how we're socialized is saying, hey, I need help.
Mm-hmm.
Based on how we're socialized, that is a lot. That is a lot. Sometimes based on how we're socialized, we'll see our wives, you know what I mean, struggling to fold some laundry. They're so tired. And we'll just, well, it's not my job. I'm a man.
Yeah.
Are you yeah, okay, cool. But you move away from that. Are you an adult?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Are you an adult? So if you're an adult, you're going to see that person you care about struggle. You're going to help them, regardless of how you've been socialized, what your role and what your role is not.
Yeah.
That's love,
Yeah.
right? So how do we use our power and our privileges? Right? Like it's like in the Bible, I know a lot of your listeners are Christian, but like it's like, hey, like remind me in the verse, right, where it talks about like where you know growing up in church, so like women follow your husbands or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which one comes first, that or men love your wives as Christ loves the church? Do you
Well,
mind looking it up real quick?
yeah,
Yeah.
sure. Okay, so in Ephesians 5, from verse 21, where that section starts, it talks about, and further submit to one another, which I guess is a context, submitting to one another. Then it starts with,
Mm-hmm.
for wives, this means submit to your husbands. For husbands, husband is the head of the wife, da 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 da. And what were you asking
Mm-hmm.
again?
Yeah, which one comes
Yeah,
first,
so
right?
that
So it's
came
saying wives
first.
submit
Mm-hmm.
submit yourselves to your husband, right? But then
Mm-hmm.
it says husbands love your wives as Christ loved the church.
Yes.
Christ died for the church, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it reads like a contract.
Yeah, and it also reads as, you know, okay, wives submit, and then husbands love, which then tells a woman what you're submitting to, a loving man.
Yeah, but I mean, how does that play out? Right? Like it's like because I like husbands love your it's like, for example, dude, if you're not gonna put down your video game, why you gotta you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
Christ died according to this context, right? Christ died for the church, right?
Mm-hmm.
So men, are we dying for our family? Are
Mm-hmm.
if we can't put down a video game,
Yeah.
right? But also further to that, what is happening in our lives? Whereas adults, we need that space, we need that video game. What is
Mm-hmm.
happening at work to you? What has happened in the past? Are you trying to reclaim your childhood?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot going on inside of us. So I'm not bashing dudes for playing video games or whatever, but I'm saying sit down and know yourself and know why you're doing certain things or why you're triggered by certain things.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because there's a lot, man. If you think about some of the rules we're raised on, or like even like the trauma of, I'm not going to say spank or don't spank your kids. That's none of my business what you do at home. But I will say, question why. Do we do it because we were spanked?
Mm-hmm.
Are we doing it out of anger? Right? And what are the things that don't allow us to have the space to work through those things?
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's not condemning anybody. It's just like ask deeper questions about yourself. And that is what it takes to be. I think personally, that is strength. That is power because that's hard.
Yeah.
It's easier to punch a wall,
Yeah.
right? But I'm a man.
Mm-hmm.
That's just what men do. It's easier to do that,
Than to tend
especially
your
being
garden.
socialized. That right,
Yeah. Yeah.
because it's easier to do that than to be vulnerable because we've been socialized that vulnerability is weakness.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like we've been just socialized for war,
Ooh, brother. Wow.
right?
Wow. That hit different.
Yeah, man.
Socialized for war. To always be
Because I think about it.
combative. Combative.
Come on. Yes. Now, some of us are naturally combative,
Mm-hmm.
but we've seen in certain histories how those personalities have been quote unquote more successful in spaces of capitalism, right? Combativeness, exploring, you know what I mean? But
Mm-hmm.
what about the person that stayed home and took care of the garden? Or it's, I don't know, man. It's just something I'm thinking about. It's not a fully formed thought, but it's like, but I'm thinking about that, like even like how I socialize my boys, and I think about like, why would I tell them that? Like I'm about to say something, I'm like, wait a second, why would I say that? Right? What am I preparing them for as black men?
Yeah.
So then how much is it a war, or the world that we live in as black men a war, that we think it's loving to prepare our sons? Because it's like if we don't prepare them, they're gonna get even more hurt.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to prepare them this way. So then what does that say to the society that we live in? How much is it for black men? How much do we feel we're in a war every day?
Okay. So in your work, because
Yeah.
this question is blaring right at me right now. So in your work and research, how do you see systemic inequity affecting mental and emotional health in our
Oh
communities?
man. Oh man. Oh man. Um man. Just thinking about school and working with Dr. Lance McCready on the educational trajectories of Black Young Men Project at U of T, and the stories you hear and how many those stories relate to what you've been through, right? We're devalued, we're dehumanized constantly. On another podcast, I talked about how my grade two teacher, you know what I mean? The project I was making my mom an elephant, right? I have an elephant tattoo. She used to call me her little elephant.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a tattoo to commemorate her with that. And I wanted it to be perfect. So the last day we had to work on it, I kind of paper mached part of it, but that same part had my name on it, and I'm 7. And so the next day, a kid comes and says, "Oh, that's my project." I'm like, "No, that's mine." And she gave it to him, and I lost my temper. So then they look at me and they're like, "Oh, that's it." They said, "This problematic, violent black boy." What happened?
Mm-hmm.
I see Malachi and my wife, and that's the same way I used to love my mom. They're man, that boy loves his mama from the womb.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And and so what makes these black boys when you hear they're being put in closets, you know what I mean? The way they treat us, like they're not gonna treat other kids like that necessarily, though they do,
Mm-hmm.
right? But they treat us like this disproportionately
Mm-hmm.
different, right? Um, and so it's like a lot of these stereotypes come from fear. So how my little black boys are gonna be men that are feared.
Mm-hmm.
They do this to us because they're afraid of us. See all those videos of black men getting jumped? It's not a one-on-one thing. It's always a group.
Mm-hmm.
If you're bad, come one-on-one. But you know who I am. You know who I am. That's where those stereotypes come from.
Mm-hmm.
They know who we were, you know what I mean, on the Gold Coast. They knew who we were in Ethiopia. They know who we were in ancient Kemet and Kush, right?
Mm-hmm.
They know who we are. We know what we've accomplished. And some of that self-love is learning more and teaching my kids who they are and our histories and
Yeah.
the evidence of that. And also asking the questions, why did they take down that Great Wall in Benin? Why did they deface the Sphinx,
Mm-hmm.
right? Why don't we know about the pyramids in Kush that predate the pyramids in Egypt,
Hmm.
right? Why don't we know about Matthew da Costa, who came over with Champlain, right, when the French first came over? He was the interpreter for Champlain between the French and the indigenous folks here on Turtle Island.
Hmm.
Why does this black man, how can he be the interpreter?
Interpreter. Yeah.
Unless, okay,
Yeah. So
right?
how can we reimagine
Ah,
education, spirituality, and social spaces as places of emotional safety and restoration?
listen to black women,
Ooh, okay. Unpack that.
listen to my mama, right? Like,
Yeah.
but also understanding in a patriarchal, racist world, right? Like, black women understand racial oppression. Black women understand misogyny,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the stereotypes that come with that. So think about the barriers that black women have to push through,
Yeah.
right? Like the Combahee River Collective, right? They wrote all the women were white, all the men were black, but some of us were brave, I believe it is
Mm-hmm.
the piece that they wrote, right? Some of us were brave. Black women have a perspective, right? Even if you look at like a black lesbian woman, then you're like, they know what it's like to deal with homophobia,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the ways that we could learn about courage, we're told to look at courage about men. Nah, man, I learned courage from seeing black women
Mm-hmm.
or a black trans person, what they experience in the world, their realities, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then seeing the joy, right? But in our black trans communities, you also have more folks that understand what it's like to lose, more folks who understand what it's like to lose a friend to suicide. You look at the rates of trans folks committed suicide, right? Again, suicide is the second leading cause of death right now in Canada for young people, right? Number two. So um, understanding what other people are going through and believe them.
Mm-hmm.
Because we might not understand, but based on our vantage point and based on our privileges, right? But like, this is kind of like, might not be the best example, but like, I believe my wife when she says she's in a lot of pain when she's having her period.
Mm-hmm.
I believe her. I've never had a period. But then you know those machines on social media that attach men to them,
Yeah.
and they're like, okay, this is
Yeah.
what the period. And they attach it to a woman. The woman's like, oh yeah, that's just like that's not even the worst. And we're down on the floor,
Yeah.
right? Because it gives us an opportunity, just a moment, to experience, kind of, because it's not giving us the hormonal changes that women have to go through as well. It's just giving us the physical pain. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? All the other things that women have to experience um, is um, is a thing. So it just gives us a lens. So even in these conversations, it gives folks who are not black men a lens into what we're going through, but it's not giving you can experience it. So in that context, believe them, right? Believe folks. Now, for some people, like, oh well, I think that's wrong according to the Bible. Like, hey, man, I'm coming from a point of view of how can I save somebody's life,
Mm-hmm.
right? I said in my classes, I know you come with your own personal beliefs, your religious beliefs, they're dear to you. I got that. But we're talking about somebody's life and
Yeah.
humanity.
Yeah.
right? For me personally. Um, so uh,
Yeah. It's
yeah,
like
those are some of the things I'm thinking about.
you were talking. I had a visualization. It's like seeing somebody drowning, and you're like, your technique is off. You got to
Yeah,
do this. Your technique. That's why you're
yeah.
drowning.
But you don't know if they just got a concussion.
Hmm.
You don't know why they're in the water.
Yeah.
You don't know their experience with water,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? But how often does Christianity kind of socialize us? And in many ways, we're not aware. Folks are not aware of it
Mm-hmm.
to respond like that to people, or it gives us a context where it's okay for certain people to go through a tough time and but not us,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're reading through the whole Bible like, oh well, they did that because they did something wrong, so well that's their problem. Oh well, if they hadn't been in this position, then right? Really, you're going to use that vantage point to explain social oppression, to explain capitalism, colonialism, to explain the very because a lot of people, for some things, I'll just say it. For some things, people are like, "Oh, God bless me with this." That was just capitalism and colonialism that blessed you with that. That wasn't God. That wasn't God. You didn't
Oh
get that
boy.
promotion because of God. That was because you got the family connections and so on and so forth. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because what are you saying? That God's not with the people that didn't happen to? Because racism's real, misogyny is real,
Mm-hmm.
right? Homophobia is real, ableism is real. So these structures that the church actively participates in, the institution of it, right? The institution of it. I'm not talking about individual people in the place, because there's tons of people that just are loving, kind people that are trying to do something nice.
Mm-hmm.
You and I know tons of people like that, right? But we have to be aware of the institution. And it's not enough for us to say, hey, I'm just a nice person, as I realized in my feminist classes in undergrad.
Mm-hmm.
But in what ways can I stand up to these things that are oppressing people? It's not enough that I'm like, hey, but I don't treat women like that. It doesn't matter. Women are being treated like this,
Mm-hmm.
period. Right. So, because of the vantage point of Black women, and the things that Black women have to overcome, I think it's important that we stay attuned and aware and listen and read, right? Read Patricia Hill Collins, right? Read your Dillard, read your Bell Hooks, read your Audre Lorde's cancer journals, her journals that she wrote while she was battling cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Read Sister Outsider, right? Because if you do those things, you'll better understand your mother.
Mm-hmm.
And if you better understand your mother, you better understand where you came from.
Mm-hmm.
Because not one of us came here if not through a mother.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know your relationship with your mother, right? That is more complicated. But the physical act of we're all born through a woman,
Yeah.
right? And that woman went through very particular experiences to not only give birth to us, but to exist
Mm-hmm.
in this world, right?
Hmm. I'm talking to Dr. Emmanuel Tabi. We're going to be back right after this.
Give thanks.
Do you have an opinion, experience, or reflection you'd like to share? Your say is your space to speak your truth. Send us a pre-recorded voice note for a chance to be featured on the podcast. Whether it's a personal story, a lesson you learned, an insight that needs to be heard, or your thoughts on the show itself, this is your opportunity to be part of the conversation. How to participate? Click on the Your Say tab at the top of the website. Record your voice note. Keep it concise and clear. Enter your details to complete your submission and tune in to the podcast. Your voice might be featured on an upcoming episode. Because your voice matters, this is Your Say.
You're listening to Wellbeing with CJ Harrell.
Okay, so we're back, and I'm going to get into my rapid fire questions in just a moment. Before we do that, I just have three more questions for you in this segment. What would it look like for the next generation of young black men to grow up defining success not by hustle, but by wholeness?
Hmm. That'll be a beautiful thing in the sense that, for that to happen, there has to be a certain awareness, there has to be certain social changes. There has to be other, what I mean, spaces where you could be in community with one another. And I think that's the cool thing about the internet in a sense, right? They're positive and negative things, but as a tool, it's allowed me to connect with other folks that are on certain healing journeys
Mhm,
and hearing their expression of it. I'm like, whoa, okay, cool. So I'm not the only one going through this thing, right? Like God said, "You'll be our shepherd," right? But when a shepherd is shepherding the sheep through a thorny valley, it's not picking the sheep up, all the sheep up and carrying them through.
mhm,
Sheep's got to go through that too. And the shepherd's like,
mhm.
just keep going,
Yeah, yeah.
just keep going, right? I know there's a pasture ahead of you that we got to get to. We just got to cut through here.
Mhm,
And so I think a lot of brothers are going through that pasture, but they want more for themselves and they want more for the families, and I think from that place it's special, um when thinking about wholeness and what that looks like, um because it's also resistance and it's also a celebration. If we're growing up like that, it's a celebration to the people that went before us and fought for us,
mhm,
and we celebrate them, you know we celebrate them and we give thanks, but also we kind of explore, hey, what do we leave behind now, so we continue that, right? So for black men to be, what I mean, growing up with that wholeness, because from that wholeness will come hustle in the
mhm,
sense of like, hey, I'm going to go towards this thing because it's good for me, right? And not necessarily hustle like, hey, I'm the ultimate sacrifice. Though we have to examine the social conditions that put us in a place where we feel we have to overcome those things,
mhm,
right? Like folks are like, wow, those rappers are super braggadocious and stuff. Of course, because when you look at the social conditions that Nas came up in to where he is now, tell me somebody that wouldn't brag about that, right? Some folks are bragging about the golf shot for
mhm,
weeks,
mhm,
right? The socio political reality of America in the late 80s, early 90s, the buildings that are being burnt down so people could collect the rent money, and many of those buildings black and brown folks live in. The systemic realities of taking music out of many programs, the way America was, the hip hop generation, the beginning of the hip hop generation was growing up in a place where America was retaliating against the civil rights movement, much like what we're seeing right now, the
mhm,
retaliation against the quote unquote woke culture. You know what I mean?
mhm,
Where it's just like, okay, let's fight for the betterment of people. No, right? They took music programs out of schools where black and brown people went because they understood the power of music, the power of jazz music. The reason why um, Miles Davis would go on stage and just look down and play, because he's not here to entertain you, because that's coming out of that era of blackface and where black folks are just seen as moments of entertainment. And he's like, no,
mhm,
you're going to experience my genius, because it's in response to that understanding that black folks are two-thirds human or black people are not smart. So we understand that many folks want our rhythm, they don't want our blues, because they will allow us to play in these auditoriums and they won't let us come through the front door.
mhm,
But they won't let us come through the front door, right? A lot of those greats we listen to.
mhm.
Stevie Wonder, when we think about Stevie Wonder, he's one of the first to be able to go through the front door. Michael Jackson was, I believe, the first music video on MTV by a black person.
Yeah. Mhm.
That's not that long ago.
No.
Apartheid ended in the 90s, but did those people participating and benefiting from apartheid disappear too? No, no, right? And it's a system of oppression, because when many black folks took over those systems of oppression, they continued the oppression, right?
Mhm,
So it's like it's a human condition, in some ways, but still being aware that we're fighting racism daily. And so what that wholeness looks like is a centering. But there's a need. I celebrate that we recognize the need. Because if there's more Black men now meditating and focused on their well-being than there were 40 years ago, that those same Black men might be in the bar.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's where how we dealt sometimes, you know what I mean, with our mental health.
Yeah.
Right? And with these oppressions. And so it's a guide for our children, it's a guide for ourselves, it's a something saying the little Black boy inside of you that experienced those things, it's okay, like you're enough. It's not okay what happened to you. You know what I mean? But as adults, sometimes it's our responsibility to focus on the healing of that thing, right? And saying it's not okay what happened to you. It's wrong and it hurts. But I love myself. I'm gonna dig. I'm gonna fight. I'm gonna fight for that love for myself, right? It's from that place come the issues of our lives, right? How we perceive those things. But it could also help us imagine solutions. Being aware of our history, like, wait, the Jewel movement, y'all really resisted like that, man? You know what I mean? Wow, okay, Zimbabwe, y'all really resisted like that?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, okay. Jamaica, y'all really resisted like that? Oh, okay. Ghana, you really resisted like that?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, okay. Right? Nkrumah, right? Um, yeah, the Asada Shakur, it cost them something,
Mm-hmm.
right? It cost them something. Cost them something. And and so if anything, we learned something from the stories of Jesus Christ is it cost something,
Mm-hmm.
right? That brother was just in ministry for 3 years. And he disappeared and sent back an invisible spirit because he knows what people do.
Mm.
If they see you, if they see you, they're gonna get you, right? Malcolm X, we could talk about all that Malcolm X did, but his baby still grew up without a daddy.
Mm-hmm.
Countless others globally in so many different struggles lost their lives or their well-being or their jobs.
Mm-hmm.
How many people are losing their jobs now for standing up for DEI? But everybody wanted to post a black square. So now we take a step back and we can see who the hypocrites are. And there are people that are still doing the work and different institutions like, nah, man, like we really got to stick with this. And we know, you know what I mean? By our fruits are known. So wholeness, that is, there's a lot of work to get there, but it can start with us every day, 5 minutes. 5 minutes, just put on a timer and just say, I'm just breathing for 5 minutes. I say 5 minutes because 5 minutes we can do. And then I might expand to 7 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes,
Hmm.
right? 15 minutes. So we got a big tree to chop down. We got to make sure that the blade is sharp, but also understand that the tree forgets what the axe, or the axe forgets what the tree remembers.
Hmm.
Right?
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm gonna skip my two questions that I had following those because I want us to rest on some of what you said there. So
Okay.
I'm gonna get into my rapid fire well-being questions. All
All right.
right. What makes you happy?
Life and liberty, and included in that is like life, I say, because it's my family,
Right.
my friends, you know what I mean? The gift of being alive, for me personally.
Hmm.
Yeah.
What are you most grateful for?
Those same things, life, liberty,
Hmm. Hmm.
having fresh fruit, to share with my family and see them
Mm.
experiencing,
Yeah.
actually eating the fruit, right? Like for me anyway, like I'm 2 years I've been, you know what I mean? Mostly fruit and seeing the changes in myself and in my emotional life, and just like, wow, no steak has ever done that for me. Because, you know what I mean, you knew me, you know what I mean, I love my meat, but so
Yeah.
but no piece of ribs ever did me that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What a bag of apples can do for me.
Mm.
So I think yeah, that's important to me. That seeing that symbiotic relationship, that I and I with food, with family, with faith,
Mm.
you know what I mean? With fruit, the expression of it.
What is your philosophy for life?
I got a few. The first one that came to mind, Nelson Mandela, courage is not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it.
All right.
Um, yeah, that's a big one. But also, yeah, think about Audre Lorde, you know what I mean, and our dreams. You know what I mean? Thinking through our dreams, how important they are and why we have them. And what are the things that are in the way of our dreams,
Hmm.
right?
That's big.
Yeah,
How
yeah.
would you define success?
Peace.
Mm. Peace within and without. That's what came to my mind as you said that peace, because you
Oh,
know
word up.
that whole garden thing is just resting on me still, man. What new
Yeah,
things
bro.
are you learning? What new things are you learning?
Um, how about learning but questioning?
Okay.
Why is a cheeseburger cheaper than a bag of apples?
Mm. Say no more.
Yeah.
Say no more. I'm gonna rest on that. I'm gonna chew on that one.
All right.
What
Literally, right?
what is the most life altering lesson you've learned?
Um, there have been a few. Uh, two of them that came to mind uh were my car accidents. I was in like rear-ended a few times within a short period of time, within months of each other.
Wow.
At the beginning of my PhD journey, that and the death and life of my mother.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that was such a because I met Jazz 3 months before my mom died, so they got
Mm.
to interact a little bit. But like, see what a gift it is to live a life where I've been loved by such two incredible women like that.
Mm.
That I have a responsibility. It's changed everything. Some people are like, "What's your North Star? Or what's your true north, or whatever?" And like, that's uh that's it for me, man. Like, grateful to God that I could experience a life being loved by these two women. Um, feel very blessed, and and I give thanks for it. You know, there's always something that we're hoping for and something that we're praying for,
Mm.
uh, and something that we're grateful for. You know, but yeah, because it was hard. It's still very hard. It's still very hard, but it happening at that time, it taught me a lot. It taught me about
Mm.
the day to day, because the day to day adds up.
Mm.
The day to day adds up. So don't even forsake a drop. You know, a drop
Yeah.
of water. Don't even forsake that.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah.
What are you
So
most passionate about?
learning.
Oh yeah. I believe that one.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
You got a
Yeah,
mind
learning.
on you, man. Mm.
Man, I give thanks. But again, my mom, right? God gave me a mother that created a reality that I would be able to pick up an encyclopedia and read it
Hmm.
and just have more questions. Like after my class, the first class, like you can ask my students, man, they're like, the first thing I say is like, my goal is that you leave this class at the end of the semester with more questions than you have answers.
Hmm.
Yeah, I want you to think for yourself, especially at McGill. Like the kids are, you know what I mean? Like usually have high GPAs, but they got there by doing what the teacher said.
Yeah.
So they'll sit there like, I will do whatever you tell me to do. I'm like, journal. They're
Hmm.
like, wait, what? I gotta spend time with myself. I'm like, yeah. In fact, 40% of your mark is about your journaling or something like that, right?
Right.
They're like, we don't know what to do with that. Or like, sir, is there a rubric for this assignment? No, it's journaling. I give you a rubric for you. They're like, oh, and then they end up loving it
Yeah.
because they have the opportunity to get to spend time with themselves.
Hmm.
because they're being teachers, right? I want you to question some of the things you do, just like parenting.
Yeah.
You need space to question what are the things we do. Well, that's how many times, even when I'm sitting with myself, I'm like, why do I do that? And why is the first thing that comes to my head? Well, that's just the way it's done because that's how I was parented.
Mm-hmm.
But who set that up? Right? How many Black folks have been given the privilege to be curious and ask these questions and not be shut down?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Why not have a lifelong relationship with learning and asking questions?
Mm-hmm.
But when we're faced with the fear of going to hell, then how can we be passionate?
That's deep. I got two more
Yeah.
questions for you.
Yeah, please. Please, please.
What's your biggest priority right now?
Well-being. Yeah. Well-being, but also exploring what that means. And exploring those places, those doors that you're afraid to open when you're sitting in meditation.
Mm.
But also
Mm-hmm.
understanding the more knowledge, the more sorrow at times.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? That ignorance really is, or I shouldn't say ignorance, but the unknowing
Mm-hmm.
sometimes is pretty blissful, right? Sometimes it's pretty blissful. But but for me personally, it's not the righteous way to go,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? If I only know what the church told me I should know, then I would have never lived.
Mm-hmm.
And what's the point of living if you can't be alive,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you don't know yourself, right? If I know about Beethoven, more about Beethoven than I know about Fela Kuti, something wrong. If I know more about Mozart than I do um, about Ella Fitzgerald and the life of Ella Fitzgerald
Mm-hmm.
and the life of Ella Fitzgerald, right? The social realities of Ella Fitzgerald. And something's not balanced, right? Because we've been taught history only from the European vantage point,
Mm-hmm.
but there was history clearly long before that, right? So we know more about the Europeans' experience discovering the pyramids, but less about the pyramids themselves
Mm-hmm.
and the land and the people and the representation. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Why? If I know more, if I can name all the British prime ministers, but I don't know Kwame Nkrumah, or do we know about the African women heads of state? Do we know about them and their stories and their experiences? What do we know about the royal families of Ethiopia, the royal families of Zimbabwe, the royal families of Tunisia or Algeria or Morocco,
Mm-hmm.
right? And what they experienced, what they discovered, right? If we don't know that black and brown people were the ruling class of Europe for more than 400 years. Ooh, that part. The Moors, how expansive their intelligence was, but also their influence, not intelligence, but yes, intelligence, but their influence,
Mm-hmm.
right? Why was Shakespeare writing about Othello, right? A Moor general, right? A black skin,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's like, do we take that as a story in isolation of the history at the time of England? I was this British person aware of this black general and an army led by black and brown people. Why not?
I gotta have you back, Doc.
Right? Oh man,
This is
I want to
supposed
be back.
this is supposed to be my rapid fire questions.
Sorry, sorry.
No, no, no,
One
no,
word
no.
answer. I
You're
also
good.
talk a lot. I
No,
talk a
you're
lot.
good. You're good.
All
I'm
right.
saying that you have a lot that we need to unpack, so I have to have you back. My final
Mercy.
question then, on the heels of all
Yes.
that you've said, what is the
Uh,
one thing you would like people to know?
Whoa. Um, you're worth the self-love that you long to give yourself.
Could you repeat that?
Your worth, the self-love that you long to give yourself. I feel
Mm-hmm.
that many of us desire to love ourselves a certain way, but sometimes we don't feel we're worth it. Sometimes we feel we don't have the time. But it's like the same way I was talking about, if you know what I mean, European things, that you should know other things too. If you know Netflix more than yourself,
Hmm.
then question that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you what to do,
Yeah.
but question that, and also question why. What is the peace that Netflix gives you? What is that escapism? What are you trying to escape? Right? I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm saying be aware. I'm not even saying don't choose Netflix over meditation. I'm just be aware of why you do it. Right? And give yourself that 5 minutes, at least 5 minutes to yourself. And if that expands into something else, cool. If it doesn't, cool. At least give it a try. You're worth it. Yeah.
Dr. Emmanuel Tabi. Thank you so much for being on the Well-Being Podcast today, man. And it was good seeing you,
Thanks for
my
having
friend.
me.
It's been long,
It's good to
long,
hear.
too long.
Good to see you, my brother.
Looking
Yes.
forward to having you back, man.
I'm looking forward to be back.
Awesome.
Yes, sir.
Thanks.
Bless your heart, man.
You're listening to Well-Being with CJ Harrell.
Well-being with CJ Harrell.
Straight ahead, final thoughts.
As I reflect on my conversation with Dr. Tabi today, my mind continues to chew on the concept of tending our garden. Tending our garden isn't just about pruning what's visible, it's about nurturing what's sacred within. The truth is, each of us carries seeds God Himself has planted, truth, purpose, and potential waiting to be cultivated. When we maintain a Christ-centered spirit free from the lies and limitations the enemy whispers through even well-meaning voices, we remain rooted in His promise that we will bring to full bloom the image of Himself within us. We were created to embody, exemplify, and express the very character of God. His ideals are imprinted on us. His values are meant to emerge through our actions. And His love is to be seen in the way we live and relate to one another. Attending our garden then becomes an act of worship, a daily participation with the Holy Spirit as He grows in us faith, virtue, wisdom, self-control, endurance, reverence, kindness, and love. These aren't simply traits to admire, they are the living fruit of a divine cultivation. So may we keep our hearts soft to His touch, our soil open to His truth, and our eyes fixed on the one whose image we bear. Because when we tend the garden of our soul, we don't just grow, we reflect the glory of the gardener himself. Also, before I close, I want to let the men that are tuned in know to any one of you that are carrying silent battles, this is for you. If you've lost your sense of direction, purpose, or peace, I see you. I also coach men to reclaim their identity, heal from what they don't talk about, and rise again with strength and clarity. So why not book that clarity session today? Until next time, remember, don't just stay on the sidelines. Subscribe, leave a review, share your thoughts, tell your story. Let's make well-being more than a conversation. Let's make it a movement. Until next time, I'm CJ saying stay safe and be good to yourself.
Thank you for listening to this edition of Wellbeing with CJ Harrell. If you enjoyed the show, remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And visit us at cjharrell.com. We're better with you.